which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for roll call.
Frizzalone.
I am here.
Dollinger. Here. Fritz. Mayor. Moran. Parker. Rice. Winfrey. Tuminello.
Here.
You have a quorum. We also have Mr. Brooks, and I believe Mr. Eustace is around the corner.
Thank you. First thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the Will County Capital Improvements Committee, March 21st.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next on the agenda, first thing on old business is an update from the Will County Public Safety Delivery Team. We've got Leopardo, DLR, and Farm. Yeah, old business by a young presenter.
Before you begin,
And a very young one.
I just wanted to preface the update for the committee with respect to phase 2 of the project involving the site work and everything short of demolition of the existing airway building. So everything essentially east of the new building. We've got some utility connections to make, we've got curb and gutter, we've got some flat work, we've got some asphalt to do. I just wanted to say that we are jump starting that, and I wanted to make sure that the committee was informed of that, but I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank the Will County Sheriff's Department and also the Department of Transportation for their cooperation in helping us to rearrange the site to accommodate this work, because it wasn't scheduled to occur at this point.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just to remind everyone, my name is Nicole McNamara. I'm a senior project manager with Leopardo Construction. All right, so while we're passing around the hard copies, I think we all have them. Pull up a Word document in case anyone in the back wants to see the fun we're having. All right. Okay, so we submitted our March bill, and in total, we are 44% complete on the project. Earthwork is well underway. We should be doing site work roughly mid-April to beginning of May to start that process back up. So that will be, as Dave said, all of our base work, but then we're going to move into the phase 2 as well to get that at the same time. So we're trying to get everything that might be additional at the same time so we can hit the weather as well. Substantial completion is still on track for 12/27. Currently, since last time, we've completed all of the structural steel, the concrete, the exterior cold form framing and the sheathing, and the roofing for the 911 center. So currently we're working on the exterior still, but from an air barrier, window framing and glass, composite metal, fiber cement wall panels, the GERT system, so that's the substructure that goes on before the actual panel itself. And then also the masonry veneer. This is also all weather dependent, not on the critical path, so just as we get good days, we try to just do as much as we can. So today, they're doing some detailing for the air barrier, but they won't actually do the air barrier since it's wet. So we're just kind of taking it day by day, but again, anything doing the enclosure is just an added bonus at this point. From an interior standpoint, for Area B, which is the sheriff's facility, we're continuing on with the metal stud framing, drywall and taping, the MEP roughing, interior masonry, which is the detention area, and we also have lobby masonry work, and then starting on the first prime coat painting in the 911 area. The next 2 weeks we'll be continuing with that same exterior as the weather gets nicer, and the interior, same thing. and also starting to get the MDF rooms, which are the main electrical rooms for the 911 and the sheriff's facility, turned over sooner by probably 6/1, because it'll take them some time to do what they need to do and then to get the facility up and running. So we've been coordinating with the IT department on that to make sure they're well underway. And so you can see from the pictures right now on the left is the air barrier and some composite panel, cast stone and glazing being installed. That's in the 911 area. You can see rough-in going into the right. In the sheriff's area, TPO roof going on, bottom left, which is the fully adhered membrane roof. That's in the 911 area, and then some taping and painting that was started in the 911 area. So that's where we're at.
Great, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions, comments? You guys are really proceeding nicely, it looks great. DLR have anything to add?
Just for the record, Kevin Kern with the LR Group. Since the last committee hearing, we've had our mechanical engineer out just to look at the mechanicals that are in place above the ceiling and elsewhere, and we're continuing to visit the site every week. I think that's it from us.
Jim Rickard with Farnsworth, project manager. Well, we're the third-party commissioning agent. Just a quick update on commissioning. We're continuing our site observations and inspections. We're pretty much at a weekly basis with site presence. Again, we're focusing on mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, security, and communication systems. So our site activities will continue to ramp up from here as we get closer to energization and equipment startup. Outside of that, no major issues or red flags from a commissioning perspective.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? Yep.
I'm just curious. Have we decided, David, this may be for you, did we decide on a maintenance program, or did we not?
No, we have not yet made a selection on that. We're looking into several different options. And as a matter of fact, I have a call on one of them today.
But the reason I'm bringing it up is at what point, what's the crucial time to start inputting data into that system? It would seem to me that we're getting close to that. Or just for my own knowledge.
That's an excellent question. I'd like to hand that, and we've talked about that. And do you want to speak to that point?
So we proposed a naming convention for asset data that will be uploaded into whatever system you choose. So we're trying to set up the framework regardless of what system you choose at this point, so we have all the data populated and collected. So we're not affecting the decision of the system. It'll be universal, so it won't affect the decision made on the system, but we're having all the data collected now. We're just finalizing some of the details on how the naming convention is going to lay out.
And maybe you could tell me just the real Reader's Digest version. What is that process? I mean, I would assume that Carl's involved in that. Also,
all of us are,
everybody would be involved,
including the county, and including the current building maintenance staff. But what we didn't want to do is put something together that would be difficult, and information on all the new equipment in this building. We wanted to use this as the standard for moving forward with the both new projects. And so what we didn't want to do is make something, or put together an equipment itemization that we would have difficulty uploading into a CMMS. Computer maintenance management. And so we're very cognizant of that, and we've narrowed the field, and we'll begin to conduct interviews in the very near future this month for the facilities manager position. So that was kind of the interaction, or the dependency that we were trying to avoid, but I think that we've crossed that bridge without making that process any more difficult than it has to be for, and to lend itself to as much flexibility for when we bring the new facilities manager on board.
Thank you. Also, I had a really good meeting with Mr. Tack this morning, and I could tell the committee that, obviously we are on time still, but we are still under budget, and numbers continue to look favorable. Hopefully, we could continue to go through the entire, rest of the year that way, and get this project on time and under budget as we all planned. So, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And the next on our agenda is the update from the Judicial Center delivery teams, White, Gilbane, and Farnsworth. Before you start, Jason, just for the committee's sake, again, Mr. Frizzalone, Mr. Tack, myself, have had a couple meetings with White, Gilbane, trying to drill down the 100% DD numbers. And we believe that in May, we will be able to come forward to the committee with the drill down 100% design development numbers for the committee to be able to see at that time. So next month, we'll be able to have everything that we've been looking for. So with that,
Ray stole my update.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Jason.
Jason Dwyer with White Company. Yeah, as Ray said, we've been working real hard. It's a big building, so we're spending a lot of time making sure we've got the design and the numbers all aligned properly. A couple other quick updates. I think last time we were here, I talked about we were setting up for a meeting with ComEd. So we met with ComEd, continuing to coordinate for service the new building. It was a good meeting. They have a couple things they need to do. It's going to be a pretty significant electrical demand for this large building, so they're looking at their capacity planning and all the things that they do to make sure that they can provide the power to the building that we need. Overall, I think there shouldn't be any major issues with that. They just need to get through some of their engineering work. So I think we're expecting probably within a couple weeks to have a little bit more detail on that. We also talked about construction service and all the other things that we're going to need for power for the site and that. So overall, good meeting with ComEd. And then there was a meeting yesterday with IDOT. I was not able to go. A couple members of my team were there. You weren't there, were you, Tyler? Okay. Sounded like a pretty good meeting with them, too. They didn't seem to have any major issues. The reason we're coordinating with IDOT is there's 2 IDOT-controlled streets that bound the property, and we're looking at trying to remove the parking lane on those streets. So obviously that's work in the IDOT right-of-way. A lot of that is related to providing as much of a security buffer to the building and site as we can. And I think the feedback I got, and you can jump in if there's anything else, but that they didn't seem to have any major issues with what we were proposing. So overall, pretty good. I mean, there's certainly detail we'll go through initial permitting, but just in general, I think things are going pretty well on the agency front.
Anybody have any questions for White? Jason? If not, we'll jump over to Tom from Gilbane.
As Jason said, we're continuing to assist in these efforts. I did attend the IDOT meeting yesterday, and that did go pretty well. We've got some questions to resolve for them on the permit drawings when we put those together, some sections and stuff that they're going to need to see. To that end, the start of construction, Gilbane continues to work with the local utilities, AT&T, Nicor, ComEd, as Jason mentioned, to try and get a handle on everything that's got to be relocated, where it's going to go, just kind of trying to track down some of these things. Easements that have been, years old. I don't want to say centuries old, but some of them have been around for a long time, and Dave's trying to help us with that too. So that's a thrust of our efforts right now. Ray, as you said, trimming down the numbers, getting them to the point where we're ready to look at those. Talking to the contractors, we're meeting this week also in-house to talk about outreach and getting started with that as we talked, I think, in the last meeting, to make sure we get our outreach going here in probably early May and get the contractors, all excited and everything paired up, whatever we need to do to get the project attracting to the bidders that we're going to want, especially the local guys. So that's kind of the direction we're moving in addition to refining schedules, logistics, and utilization plans. Scopes of work, we started to put those together based on the 100% DDs, which were in pretty good shape. So.
Yeah. I want to thank you for all the, taking all those calls and the meeting. I just keep drilling down to those numbers, and I'm going to be very happy when we present it next month. I think the committee will be happy as well. Jim, Farnsworth?
Yeah, just a quick update. From a commissioning perspective, we are continuing to address our open design review comments from the 100% DD set with White. We're also having continued discussions on the building automation system requirements and architecture, as well as defining a scope for our building envelope commissioning and test and balance work. Outside of that, no major issues.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for either White Building or Farnsworth?
I wanted to add, number one, we wish Mr. Michael Wolf a speedy recovery. I heard he had some emergency surgery while on the road very recently, so is he doing okay?
He's doing well.
Okay. Appendectomy on the road. Always fun thing. So one of the things I also wanted to mention too is that with the IDOT meeting yesterday, I did not attend, but that also covers the access that we need to the site during construction. And that's something too. I mean, and for the benefit of this committee, there's going to be a lot, and as you know, there's going to be a lot going on with respect to work at that end of town, and it's going to be tight. And so, the better that we are able to plan for it now and prepare for it when the time happens, I think the better off we will be with respect to the project itself.
Wayne Chan is going to come out, provide that, walk that with us, and look at where we wanted the access and curb cut and closing lanes and stuff, so. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Jason, why don't you just sit here just for another second? I know number 3 on the item, we have discussion for future courthouse. I know you were going to be prepared to come back with something in May because we're still putting a lot of the effort into the 100% DD. However, if any board members had any questions, I wanted to give them an opportunity to at least bring it up now. Jim?
You know, and I don't know if it helps, Jason. I do believe we have the prints for that building. I mean, looking at the prints, you would know what walls would have to stay or maybe what other. I don't know if you've ever had access to those.
We did get some of the prints, I think. You know, kind of what we're looking at right now and how to approach it is at kind of a higher level for overall budgeting purposes, because I think that's the direction I was kind of hearing from committee, but let me know if it's otherwise. You know, we talked about what groups might move in there, but we're not really developing a full design for it yet, so what we're trying to do is use kind of standard cost per square foot for, you know, the demolition we know is going to need to happen to convert from courtrooms more to office space, because the idea was to move probation and public defender and possibly the specialty courts and some associated functions there that are not going to be in the new courthouse. So what we're looking at is looking at it more on sort of a general cost per square foot basis for the build out of those offices, but then also looking at the overall building and, you know, what items might need upgrades, like roof replacement, or, you know, we know the windows need to be upgraded and the elevators, and then trying to kind of marry the two together to give you kind of an idea of what, you know, what order of magnitude pricing it might be in play for that kind of work scope.
I mean, I hate to keep pushing this off. I think we really need to get to a point where we can perhaps start making a decision on that building. It will not be an inexpensive building to demolish. We know that, so it'll be a considerable cost. I think we have space needs. I'm actually trying to stay hopeful that you could repurpose that building. So it's an ideal location, and I just think we really need to get to the point where we can start making some decisions on how we're going to move forward.
I would agree with you. I think there's a lot of needs that aren't met, that we're going to need to be met, and the location is right there. I've asked, you know, one of the things is not only is it going to be an expensive building to demolish, it's also going to be an expensive building to outfit and to remodel as well. So that's, I think, one of the things that Jason's working on in that next month.
Hopefully it's not as expensive as you may think.
I'm hoping as well.
Well, as you can imagine with that, I mean, and we talked a little bit about this, I think, a couple meetings back, where it comes down to, you know, ranges of renovation. I mean, sometimes if you know you're going to be in a space for a year or two, you might just go in and just do some very simple modifications just to make it work. But I think the feedback we got was that you know, if you're moving spaces in here and doing significant work, we want this to be a long-term proposition. So that's where, you know, we're digging into a little bit deeper, saying, well, you know, could you just move a couple walls around and call it a day? Yeah, but that's not gonna really set you up well for the long term. You need to do things like, you know, replacing the HVAC on the floor, because, you know, converting from a courtroom and the needs for a courtroom are very different than an office. So you're gonna need to like tear out all the HVAC distribution that you have there and rework that for an office setup. And then we're kind of looking at it and saying, well, you know, what's the condition of the major central plan items? I know a lot of them have been upgraded over the years, but there's other things like plumbing, you know, and do you need to start looking at upgrading some of your old plumbing with the old galvanized pipe and those kind of things. So I'm just trying to be a little bit more comprehensive and looking at it with a kind of a long-term eye and making sure we're giving you a good feeling for it.
Well, we discussed the 100% DD on the new courthouse. You should have those numbers complete within about 2 weeks, get ready for the May meeting. Why don't you drill down, if you would, the last couple of weeks before the meeting, and then make sure that we have something to look at. Because Jim is right, we're gonna need to make some concrete decisions here moving forward sooner than later.
Yeah, no problem.
That's my agree.
Of course, you guys know my feeling, go big or go home, so I think if we're gonna start looking at the use of that building for us, we also need to see what kind of interest is out there, if someone else might wanna use it. I mean, we already have, you know, pie in the sky plans for adding another building behind the courthouse at some later date, but if there's someone that can use that building that reduces our overall cost and gives us the ability to build something else, which is exactly right, rather than trying to make a building work, we need to explore those options now too.
Well, I would tell you that from my perspective, I'd be probably opposed to selling that property, even if we demolished the building. That would just be a site done for a new building. The site is, in our overall operation, our overall trying to develop what I'll call an urban campus. That property is way too valuable to us as a county to sell that. So I think this becomes a matter of demolish the building and build new there, or do you renovate? The numbers are prohibitive, that's what you would do, or you repurpose that current building. But selling that property, I think would be a real mistake for the county, and it kind of defeats our overall plan of developing our campus.
And I think that was also part of when the White study, when we originally did this, was that would potentially be a campus area there as we go through there. So I would agree with Jim on this one, that selling that property is not. Now, I would take it one step further, and I would ask Jason, because you've been with us since the very beginning on all this, as you take a look at this building and its current structure and the assessments that you all have done of the different work groups that we have here, what seems to be appropriate with the least amount of impact on repurposing the building? You know, are there groups within and programs within here that could go in there without hardly doing anything to the inside, just the way it is, versus needing more specific office space because we're going to put in a more office-intense kind of system? Does that make sense? And does that impact, and I'd like Jason to respond, does that make sense? And is it something that, I'll turn mine off. There you go.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, we going way back to the study time frame and master planning, we did talk about that. And I think at that time, and you know, things can change over time too, but at that time we were really trying to focus in on sort of having I'll call it the county government center, you know, whether it's here or another spot, and then the courts, and keeping them a little bit separate. I think some of the discussions at that time were, you know, the more things you put into one spot in that area downtown, it becomes a little bit more burden on parking, so there's some considerations with that. I think that the site sets up well. I mean, with the big investment now in the new courthouse, it's really a nice court precinct, if you will. So taking the functions like public defender and getting public defender in there, moving probation in there, which will continue to free up more space in the MCO building, which allows the state's attorney to grow over time as the court system continues to grow. I think those are really nice, you know, synergies, I guess, in terms of the overall court system. The other thing that was talked about years back was with county government, this idea of trying to consolidate as many true government components together within one area. So, there were discussions at one point about, having land use close with other functions, and sometimes that comes down to not so much that the different departments are necessarily working together day to day, but I think it comes down to people when they go to the site, people aren't sure where to go. So they just say, oh, I know there's a big county office building here, so I'm just gonna go there, and then they get here and find out, well, geez, I think the thing I need to do isn't here, and so now where do I have to go? So I think that there's something to that in terms of trying to make it as easy as possible for the public in terms of wayfinding and that kind of thing. So a lot of the focus down in the courts area has been on court operations thus far.
Well, let's have Mike finish his.
Yeah, because the other option is not necessarily sell it, lease it. Because even if we do something, we're probably not going to do it in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, when we leased it for 10 years out, while our first set of bonds roll off and get ready for major reno, I mean, we just need to look at all options.
I wouldn't say, it's something, I don't know if we're in the leasing property, but there is another option, and the other option would be a public-private partnership for a mixed-use building. It would be partly used for the public, and then or private, and then would be the public portion. Since it's not a security sensitive, you get a retail, maybe some rental office space within the building, and then of course county use. So, I mean, there are options out there, but I don't want to make it too complicated either. The other point I might ask Jason is that it's not all courtrooms there. I mean, the circuit clerk space is office space, and so even if we didn't utilize the entire building and we just utilize the office space, I do recognize there might be some infrastructure of the building infrastructure. When we talk about elevators, we don't need 4 elevators, we can cut it down to 2 and so forth. So there's also looking at potential utilization of just the office space component, which would be very low expense. We should also evaluate that portion of the building.
But until we need those demo numbers, and we need some rough numbers before we can look at it.
So next. Absolutely.
Thank you. If Grant Spooner wasn't videotaping us, I would say that I agree with Jim Eustace, since you got the tape going.
It's okay. I agree with you.
Okay. Not on tape, not on video. But I do agree, because I think that's probably more valuable to us as a county than any other entity. And other entities would love to have that property. But Jason, are you challenged with helping with the repurpose of that, looking around the county, all our departments, to see what would be a retrofit in there? And I like that statement you made, that's less intrusion, moving walls, etc. We certainly don't want to invest a whole lot of money into that building, 50 years old already, and who knows, it might have to come down someday. But aren't you challenged with that? Yeah, but
You're more than 50 years old.
Yeah, I got another 50 years left in me.
All right, let's bring it around.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, we're trying to find a balance. I mean, it's a pretty good sized building.
Yeah.
So, it's the spaces we talked about, public defender and probation, don't need all the space in that building, obviously. So, it's how can you strategically renovate those spaces to make them good long-term spaces for those two functions, but also, set yourself up so that if something changes down the road and you want to move another group in there on the 4th floor, for example, that you're well positioned to do that without, major impact. So we're trying to weigh out a couple of those different options, and we'll be able to provide you a little bit more.
Which I think was my original statement here, is taking a look at the building and all the activity that could potentially go in there. I mean, this is a chess game. It's what do we got going on here that needs to go here? And I think that would be, because we might not have to do a whole lot if we're just putting people into office space, but we could make some of those courtrooms small conference meeting rooms that we don't have that potentially could be used for that kind of stuff that we could use from the county's perspective. I mean, there's no reason that we as a county board couldn't take advantage of some of that space for the activities that we're already busting at the seams for, like meetings like this.
Yeah. There's one other user that I would like to put more on the front burner. It's the orphaned special courts. You know, they're like orphaned in the sense that we just say, okay, where are we going to put them now? Put them over there for 6 months. You know, okay, now where are we going to put them? You know, we'll put them over here for 6 more months. You know, and it seems to me, and of course, I don't know if the chief judge is still here, but it seems to me that the courts system is moving in this direction of especially courts where we try to divert from incarceration for people who maybe struggle with drug addictions, or our veterans, or people who have mental health issues. And I see that is a real growing aspect of the courts. That's not going to get smaller. I think that's going to really, as we see success in the with these programs, I think you're going to see that area grow. So, so I'd like to mention I like now to call them the orphaned specialty court system, because we never have a home for them. So, and I think we should push it on the front burner. And this building could also, I think, take us a long way in that direction. And all those courtrooms maybe don't have to come out, as Chuck mentioned. So,
Yeah,
anyway, I want to throw that out.
the community recalls was an item that we had in the original overall program for the new courthouse, but because of budget constraints and that was removed from the program. So that is something that we've been looking at as a home for the specialty courts as well.
That's all I was going to say. In judicial, we heard what a effective way the specialty courts, how it is the way that the courts are going, and I'm just glad to hear that it's priority for space. I mean, I hate to hear that they need to have a good space to do their good work, and I hope it's a priority.
Thank you.
It won't be open.
You just turned it on. Oh, there you go. All right, thank you. I think
Thanks
you've
a lot.
got enough on your plate, and we'll come back and maybe with some numbers.
Yep.
And then the committee could debate and give you some direction.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the discussion for the highway roof projects. Mr. Mazzoni, is he in here?
Back again. This is Kevin Garney, our working consultant, and this is what last meeting, but I don't talk about it. Basically, wanted to look at reconstructing the roof, or Mr. Musis, I believe, brought up doing a tear off, comparing to what we want to do. So I'll let Kevin tell you.
Good afternoon. So what we did was we did a study on these roofs for Mike at his request, and found out that the roofs are not in that bad a shape. They're not failing by any means. They're actually, I would say, from fair condition after about 10 or 15, 18 years of use. There are some anomalies in the roof, of course. There's some blisters, some splits, and so forth. But in our business, we first try to look at a roof and say, well, how much life can this thing get based on what the building's use is, before we look at replacement as a last resort. Because now to replace roofs, you have to add additional insulation because the new building codes are R30. So roofs that only have a small amount of R value now have to be increased. That raises the cost overall for replacement, because now your wood nailers go up for your perimeter, all your equipment needs to be raised. So by looking at a different angle on this, maybe we could take these existing roofs, make them better with a fluid applied system, and for about half the price of a replacement, to still give you a long-term manufacturer's guarantee. So that's really the path that we were suggesting. And
We can pass this down.
yeah, this product that it shows that
The roof with all the stones on it, that's the kind of roofs you have now. The white system on top of there is a fluid applied membrane that's reinforced, that you're adding basically almost 100 mils of thickness to an already 300 mils roof membrane. So, for example, if you tore that roof off and went back with it, you're going to get the same 200 mils thickness. By keeping what you have, you're actually increasing your waterproofing by another 100 mils for half the price.
Mike?
So two things, how long does it extend the life?
You could extend it from a manufacturer's warranty 10, 15, or 20 years, depending on how much material is put on that roof.
And then what about operational or future cost? Does this increase the cost of the maintenance of it, or?
Actually decreases it because now you have no vulnerabilities like exposed seams like you have currently, because you're putting down a monolithic fluid, almost like a liquid plastic really. And we've done accelerated aging tests on this product. We found that you lose about a mil thickness a year just in weathering, foot traffic, which is about the thickness of a piece of paper. The top coat in that product is 32 mils thick. So essentially you have, with a 20-year warranty, you're still getting 32 mils of the top coat. So even if it wears down to the gray beneath it, you still have 64 mils of that with thickness. So we're pretty confident in the longevity and the weathering.
And this is the exact same product that we did for Recorder D's Corners building, because that roof was in decent shape, so we applied this material on that roof.
And the pricing on that was, what was the pricing on that?
Well, all three
roofs.
All three roofs was anywhere from 380 to 400.
If you replace those, you pretty much double that.
Double the price. Wow. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody? Move. Second. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Nay? Carries. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Cat. We have the emergency radio communications tower, awarding the contract. You wanna bring the committee up to speed on that?
Yes, as part of the public safety complex project, we determined that future needs of that site made it very difficult to justify keeping the existing radio tower in its present location right off of Laraway and to the north of the new building. And I think everyone is aware of where that tower is. You pretty much can't miss it. And the primary reason is this. That roadway will be widened, and there's a phased plan by our DOT to do just that over the next few years. And with that, the roadway and the shoulder will be essentially abutting the tower. And so much so that we would have to move the existing fence to accommodate the roadway widening project. And so from a public safety standpoint, it just, could you see somebody running into that tower and knocking it down? It would not be a good thing. And then the secondary reason is really an aesthetics issue with respect to the new building. So we looked at this very carefully, and we planned it to pretty concisely to accommodate the needs of the new dispatch center, and also included some additional space at the top of the tower. The current tower is about 200 feet in height. The new tower will be approximately 250 feet in height. The additional 50 feet would represent, or does represent, a revenue source, potential revenue source for the county to the tune of an estimated value of about $90,000 per year for leasing that space out to cell phone providers and others. So we did put a lot of time and thought into this, and we do believe it is a viable, self-supporting, self-paying endeavor. And we put bids out on the street, and we received kind of a, and it was put together as a turnkey operation. And we received 2 bids, and the low bid came in at $313,250, I believe. And we had another bid that was considerably higher. And when we get a spread like that, we automatically think, well, wait a minute, did the low guy miss something, or do we have, why that gap like that? And we're convinced that the scope that we need, which also includes the removal of the existing tower after the construction of the new tower and then migration of all of the hardware from the old to the new, the removal of that tower, which then will be turned over to the Will County 911 or ETSB group, and I think that they have plans on siting that existing tower elsewhere. So, that to take that down, to dismantle that tower, which is in sections, is also included in the scope. And so, with all that being said, it would be our recommendation to proceed with this award.
Does any board member have any questions, comments? Did that answer your?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now I'll be looking for a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next on the agenda is authorizing Will County Executive to amend the current contract for DLR Group to include additional design engineering services for the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Certainly. When the original contract was with DLR for design services was when I negotiated that at the onset of the design phase. I excluded a number of things which ultimately are critical to the project, but there was a rationale that I used for doing just that. And I like that, and your backup, I think, will support my discussion here today. And one of the things, one of the major items that I did not buy at the time of the initial contract was the increased presence of the architect during the construction phase. And the rationale was that, well, we have a construction manager on this project, and do we really need to have the architect out there more than once a month for the monthly building meetings? And at the time, I thought, well, probably not. But due to the fast track nature of the project, it soon became very clear that a more prominent role for the architect to do the inspections and to assure quality and to answer questions relative to details and that nature is money well spent. And so that represented about $40,000. Interior and exterior signage for the building. I thought at the time when I negotiated the contract that it would be good to pull that out of the scope. I mean, typically you'd include that. I thought, well, maybe we could utilize a local firm for that scope of services. Come to find out that, that was probably a flawed rationale, because someone coming in and doing this interior signage, wayfinding signage, et cetera, would probably have a very difficult time of putting something like that together. So ultimately, I think that it is well suited for the architect of record, and so that amount is included as well. And beyond that, we did decide, because of the dollars we had remaining in the project budget, that there would be room to upgrade the lobby finishes. And so with that, that took some of the architect's time too, and that's a major item. So all of that, and then beyond that, there's some routine detailing that was required as well. I went through this in great detail with DLR over time, and I presented it for review and approval today to the Capital Committee.
Is there any questions? Mike?
My only question would be, why don't we bring that to committee before we do it? Any of those things that we've added,
Finishes.
did we bring any of that to the committee before we went forward with it?
You know, some of the stuff with, you know, and I take responsibility, I could have brought that forward much earlier. You'll see the dates on some of the
Yeah, that's
backup
somewhere below,
documents.
that's why.
The basis for that is that we were unsure of where we were headed with respect to the SOG building. And so I thought at the time maybe what we could do is package all of that together as one contract amendment if the design work for that building were to have gone to the architect of record, DLR. It didn't turn out that way.
No, but all I'm saying
And
is,
that's why I didn't
if we make a
advance it
decision,
sooner.
and this is for the next building, if there's a decision made that we're gonna upgrade finishes for a lobby, or we're going to make the sign a digital sign instead of a regular sign, I think those things should be brought here, just so we can talk about it, and say, maybe we don't want that digital sign. But it seemed like those decisions were made, and now we have to pay for it, because it's already been designed and it's already in the process, right? So,
The digital signage has not been designed. I mean, so,
but there's a cost already there for
yes,
it in here.
yes,
So,
to design it, yes.
Are these, so some of these things are things we already committed to and some aren't.
That's correct, yes. For example, the monument sign
Okay.
on the roadway with a LCD screen and so forth, we have underground conduit that stubbed out in order to
And I'm
hook
not saying
up.
I'm opposed, Dave. I'm
Mhm.
just saying, those are the kinds of decisions, since the committee decided that the committee was gonna make the decisions on how we go forward with the building. Even if we're under budget, it should be this committee deciding if they wanna add those things in, or if they just wanna stay under budget where they're at. If the lobby is gonna be upgraded for whatever reason, this committee should at least be told, hey, we'd like to upgrade the lobby, it's gonna take this much in design. It doesn't mean we have to have finishes and all that stuff, but it should be the committee, not a person, making a decision to add these things.
I understand.
Yeah, well, I'd like to make a comment on 2 points. One, having the architect on site, and I've been through quite a few projects over my lifetime. And inevitably, you go in with a very conservative view of how much we're gonna need the architect on site. And inevitably, you need them there more than all these things. So it's fairly common. But now I want to get to Mike's point. You know, like I say, we learn lessons, we can look in the rearview mirror, doesn't necessarily accomplish a heck of a lot. So if this committee then should establish a process, and if you want to handle these types of things as change orders, like you would a change order, and it comes to the committee, kind of like a change order, it wouldn't, I'm using that terminology, David, because it's
Changing the scope of the
it's just easy to
project.
understand. So if you, in the future, and if this committee, if that's the direction of this committee, then you should give that direction. To say, going forward, all these types of changes you want it brought to the committee as a change order before you move on. Now, sometimes you have to change something
Yeah,
on
something's
the
happening.
run,
You can't
fly,
wait.
or you're gonna hold up the project,
Right.
you know? But even a call to the chairman to say, you know, I'm gonna bring this to the committee, we're going to act on it now. Maybe it'd just be a better process. So that would be my suggestion. But the committee needs to give that direction. And we did give David, at least, you know, I felt, we did give David latitude to handle these things, so the project would keep moving forward. You know, maybe the timing to bring some of these issues forward is not the best, David. But in my opinion, the committee would have probably okayed it, most likely. I'm not saying, you know, 100% certain, but most likely you would have approved it. So you know, rather than looking in the rearview mirror here, why don't we just establish a process that you want to see? And that's actually what you're saying, right?
Right.
So just do it more formally. Say, this will be the process going forward.
So, do you have something to add to that?
Yes.
I'd like to talk to the committee. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that was what I was going to bring up as well. I mean, this is a change in the scope, and when we originally set this up to where we were going to have 2 meetings a month and take over the responsibility of the building commission, that was supposed to be our role. And it's much easier to deal with things as they come up than to get something like this where you have 3 or 4 or 5 things, and whether they're in order or where they're at in the workflow, I'm not 100% sure, just sitting there reading a list of all the different things we have to do. So I would agree, we, as a committee, we really need to put this into a process. And I think going forward, if David would be able to bring these, whether we call them change orders, scope, project scope changes, whatever that might be, we do absolutely need to do that.
Gretchen, before I get to you, the one thing we have to be careful of is that we don't micromanage it to the point.
No,
where-
micromanage.
That's why you gotta give latitude.
Because we do have to give him some latitude. If you read that packet, there are some things in there that he hired the architect for some bid package changes. I do not want to see every time we have to change anything like that. So, I mean, finishes, we could maybe make that as part of the policy, or if there's going to be upgraded costs because we're changing finishes. But it's not
And
just
Mr. Chairman,
money,
I think it would be really appropriate for you and David to sit down and come up with what that might be and bring that process back to the committee so that we would know where you'd like to take it, because I don't disagree at all. We don't need to micromanage this, but we do need to know if there's scope changes and we're needing to do some things that are going to be planful in the future as well.
Right, I agree. Okay, Gretchen and then Jim.
So pursuant to what Mike said, I'm glad that he brought out the point that some of these things were already committed to and some of them were not. Before we vote on this dollar amount and this resolution, is it possible to put this off 2 weeks to the next meeting and separate out the things we're already committed to and the things that we're not committed to? Is that possible?
I mean,
Or just, you could do it today, and just identify those pieces today.
I would rather just identify and get paid. I mean, or unless that,
I would just,
we should identify and just get paid.
You would have time.
You would
For
have
the
time.
county board,
So we're paying bills on the 18th anyway?
which is before
Would
county
you
board. You can
prefer to
save
do
space
that?
money.
That's my preference or my suggestion, but.
With the rest of the committee?
Yeah, people
And
don't
it would give us
Okay
2
with that.
packages to vote on, and the second package, we can have a little bit of a discussion, just to say, you know, and I'm not against
And
digital
I would
sign.
like to know which is which.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, we got 2 packages.
Also, you might be able to-
Ones we know we
Okay,
have.
hold on, one at a time.
One that we've already done, so we have to approve those. And then the other ones that we can at least just say, hey, we've now taken a chance to look at this, that while they haven't been decided, they still look good, but.
Yeah.
And then that kind of establishes that
So we
process.
know.
And Ray, I think you could also use this as a process to take this stuff and figure out what goes in that David could have made this decision versus bring it back to the committee.
That's what we'll do. So afterwards, when I get back from my application, you and I will sit down and we'll come up with a plan. We'll bring it back to the committee, have them look at it. If they feel comfortable with you and I making some of the decisions on some of those items, and then the other items that cost money that maybe make some design changes or you know, upgrades, we can bring it back.
Scope of.
I know I have Jim and then I have Beth. Go ahead.
yeah, I just want to get back to not stifling the flow of the work.
Correct.
And, you know, basically, we made a decision to let David handle these day-to-day decisions. I can tell you that as the chairman of the Public Building Commission for many years, and have done quite a few projects there, you know, the director there would be like David's role. And as chairman, he would just call me sometimes, especially if it was something that was of a little more dollar value. You know, there were times when I would say to him, is this going to hold up the project? And if he said no, then I'd say, well, then bring it to the entire committee. Or we'll have to have an additional meeting to address it. So, you know, that communication between the chairman of this committee and David cuts through a lot of that. So sometimes I would suggest, you know, Dave just gives you a call just so you're aware of it. And don't stifle the flow of the work. And if it's something that needs to be taken care of immediately, you just acknowledge it, and then you would acknowledge to the committee that you okayed it. And of course, the committee has to kind of agree a little bit to give you that latitude also. If it's something that can come to a committee and has a higher dollar value on it,
And won't stifle the project.
and won't stop the flow of work, then you can bring it to the committee. But I can tell you in most instances, I would have to make the decision as the chairman of the committee, of the Public Building Commission, because it would slow things up too much. And sometimes it had a higher dollar value to it, especially if you ran into some unforeseen.
Underground.
You know, like for example, we hit rock, and it's like it's gonna cost us $50,000 to remove the rock. You know, it's like, well, let's do it. If we have to remove it, not like we have a choice. It's not, you know, it's like we have to remove the rock. I mean, I don't wanna say it's a no-brainer. You might not like it, but you're not gonna have a choice. You know, so anyways, I just wanna.
Thank you. And then Mike.
I just support Gretchen's approach to make sure we're looking at what are we committed to, you know, not stifling things, and then if we need to have discussion on things that are decision-based, with an emphasis of Dave for sure having input, because we want to make sure we don't say move a project forward fast and then don't allow them to.
I agree, and being that Melissa stated that it would not hold up their payment, then I 100% agree. Mike?
Yeah, the main thing I'm trying to avoid, I don't want to stifle us, Dave doing his job to get stuff done. But the finish one got me, because when you said we're under budget, so we decided to upgrade the finish. Who is we? Because it wasn't any of us. So who was the we? And it wasn't you that decided it, right? On your own.
No.
We had to be somebody. Was it the architect in you? Was it the sheriff in you? That's the we I'm looking for, because we should be part of the we. That's what I'm saying, on those kind of decisions.
So Mike, what we'll do is we'll go
Fair
back,
enough.
and before the May meeting, Mr. Tack and I will come together with a plan. We'll put a process in place, we'll submit it to the committee, and the committee agrees and gives us that latitude. That makes life easy. If not, then we'll make sure that by the time we leave that meeting, we come up with a policy that everyone can agree with.
And on this particular bill, it'll be 2 votes.
And in this particular one, it'll come back as 2. One that's already done through the process. Some of it was last year. Some of it is for future work, so we'll have that all.
I would like clarity on language.
Great. Laura?
And this is just more of a general question for knowledge base. When the project was bidded out and the whole scope of the project was given and the dollar value, did that include all the furnishings and all the stuff that would go into each of those office furniture, all that goes in after the building's built? Are those numbers in this project number?
Well, we have a GMP number.
Okay.
FF&E. And we have FF&E numbers
Okay.
for the furniture fixtures.
Okay.
Yes, we carry, it's not part of the construction budget, the GM guaranteed maximum price, but it is included in the overall.
Oh, that's what I want to know, overall, what you've got. Okay, you already have numbers on that.
Yeah, so our guaranteed maximum price right now to build the building,
Yeah.
currently we are coming in under budget on that number. That's the number that we've been continually drilling down as a committee. Yes, and designing the building. Any other questions? All right, next on the agenda is authorizing the county executive to amend the contract. Do we need a, well, we don't need that for bringing it back. We'll do a motion at the next meeting. Authorizing county executive to amend contract with Stronzo and Degon and Privis.
Right.
I'm sorry.
In order to save space for the second, when the
Motion to table.
executive committee does, you need to save those 2 spaces. Jim can always, we can always pull
We can say
it.
that the executive.
Yeah.
But you want a motion to table?
You need, but you know, you need to move that forward with
You need
the,
to make a motion so we can hold space.
yeah,
Okay, we'll make a motion to hold the space at the
2
executive.
spaces, because
Two
you may have
spaces.
2 resos.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. You can always pull it.
Okay, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have our 2 spaces. Next is authorizing the county executive to amend contract with Stronzo and DeYoung Privis to include additional professional design and engineering services for new specialty equipment. I like how you worded that, Dave. New specialty equipment and vehicle storage building located at the county-owned property on Laramie. Essentially, this is to hire this architect to design our special operations group building. We have talked about trying to save quite a bit of money through our rents and the ability to consolidate. We got our radio lab in one area, we got our SWAT division in another, we have the dental vehicle, we have the workforce vehicle in another building. By consolidating that into one building, speaking with our chairman of finance, he believes there's a path forward to be able to fund the entire bonding on that building should we move forward with the SOG building with the monies that we're going to save in the rent and the overage, or the underage that we have because we're under budget on the one building. So with that being said, this is a contract for the engineering services to do the programming on that property. Do you have anything to add, Andy? Yes.
I would just like to add that the timing to the design of this building and the type of building that it will be, combined with what I spoke about earlier with the phase 2 work, is crucial to keeping the costs for the overall project down. And by that I mean we would like to do this work without having to remobilize to do this, to do it and finish it. And we'd like to keep that project rolling and get everything done as soon as possible because it's to our benefit in terms of overall cost. And that's the basis for the timing of this.
And the committee had seen a contract from this company some time ago. The scope has gone up slightly because we did throw on a couple extra options that we wanted to put in. We wanted to move and consolidate the radio lab. Instead of paying rent on a radio lab, we're going to have the vehicles right there on site. We could have the radio lab right there as well. So there's a lot of consolidation, I think, moving forward. And I think with Mike's plan on the payment structure, I think this is a smart idea. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Properly moved in second, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. If there's any other new business, anybody, new business? Any public comment? Public comment? All right, there's no chairman's report, there's no announcements. We do not have a need for executive session, but can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Properly moved in second, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned until April 18th. Have a great day.
Thank you.